this bike in a small museum in Ottawa. It had been on display for about 27 years, and after cleaning up the carb, gas taps, and replacing some electrical, it fired right up. My goal was to elevate this bike to showroom condition. After a little test ride, I decided to buy it, and I had it shipped across the country to Alberta. A 1966 BMW R27 is an interesting old bike, and when it arrived, even the forklift operator got into it.
It's German made. The cylinders come out on the side.
BMW, that's what this is.
No, it's a different one.
Okay.
It starts with a Z.
Zendap.
Yeah, he's got one of those.
A good friend of mine, Mo, dropped by to help us load up the bike. Getting a new bike home for restoration means hours and hours of entertainment lie ahead. I switched out the dual seat for a solo seat to give it that nice vintage look. The carb had a few issues, so I completely rebuilt it with new parts and cleaned it up a little to make it look new. It always makes my day when new parts arrive. A little touch-up painting was required before attaching the new bars. I refinished the hand control mounts and replaced the headlight reflector, and check out those sexy mirrors. As you can see, the lens from the speedometer is quite faded, so I've cut a new one using a scroll saw and cut it out of Lexan, so it should come out quite clear and hopefully will fit quite well. So here's a new lens in place. Just have to peel off the rest of the film off the lens. As you can see, it's did it fit there? It's come out quite well. I always get weak at the knees when you polish old parts and you can see your reflection. After checking the valve gaps, the newly polished covers were reinstalled. The coil was in great shape and only needed a little cleaning up, a part that nobody sees but my mind can. Here's a cool feature on R27s. The motor is mounted on rubber mounts to help reduce vibration. I had to replace them, and especially the upper one. As you can see, the old one was shot. One of the reasons I wanted this bike was because of the Earl's leading link front forks. They're just so unique. I touched up the forks with paint and refurbished the shocks. Check out the new muffler. Looks pretty cool. Can't wait to hear it. The spokes were in great shape, so I masked off the wheel and gave them a light coat of engine paint to wake them up a little. The wheels looked pretty good, and especially with those new retro tires. I pulled the oil pan off, and it was pretty clean inside with no nasty bits. A fresh coat of paint, and it looks good as new. Everything underneath looked like it was in pretty good shape. So this is how I took the seal off on the shifter. Is first screw in, screw, and Don't go in too far so you don't damage anything. And then I took these nice big pliers, and then I just take a hammer and tap it off, and off it came, and there you go. So I'm going to replace that because that's where my leak was coming from. For durability, I used 2K spray paint on the taillight, airbox, battery cover, and headlight bucket. It's starting to come together and not looking too bad. Before going to the paint shop, the fenders and tank needed some body work. I used drywall tape to reinforce the epoxy filler on the fender tips. "50 kilometers from my place is a small village called Sunnybrook. It has a body shop, and the owner, Gary Free, agreed to teach me and help me paint the tank and fenders professionally."
Yeah, okay.
After sanding and priming, I used some leftover spray paint just for the underside of the fenders and tank. After drying overnight, it was time to prep everything for pinstriping. It was pretty exciting when I saw the tank painted for the first time. You can't even tell where the dents were.
With around rivets and stuff, you be very careful. You know, there's one wipe there, and you'll be into black will be gone, right?
Right.
So you just gotta sort of just basically where the pinstriping is going to go has to be sanded very well, and the rest of it could almost be Scotch brighted around this kind of stuff here, so you don't go that far. You see the orange peel. You see how it's orange peeling? That there you gotta knock down. Once you start sanding, you'll see, because it'll be shiny and it'll be dull.
Yeah.
So you keep on going until it's all dull, and then you'll have a real nice base for the thin clear.
Right.
This is the high solids, and that turned out pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And lazy clear too are pretty good here.
Pinstripers are a breed unto themselves. Just stand back and watch the brilliance unfold. This is Dave Dunbar, and man does he make it look easy. Before clear coating, here's a good way to keep the dust down. Just water the floor.
Yeah, it's a fine wash. It's very, very, very mild. Very mild.
The paint booth doors are closed and the fan is on. It's time for clear coat. gonna see if it actually works. So brake tail light works right here. Let's see if the brake light. Fantastic. I've been waiting for this. It's a model of my bike. The bike wasn't idling consistently, and then it wouldn't start because we discovered there was no electricity going to the spark plug. In other words, there was just no spark. A best friend of mine, Roger, who knows a lot about motorcycles, suggested that we pull the cover off of the points and have a look at them. And when we did, we discovered that this nut here that holds the advance on was loose. So I've put some Loctite on and tightened it up. And hopefully when we put everything back together, it'll idle consistently. During a test ride, the engine all of a sudden stopped recharging the battery. So I brought it to this shop to get an expert to look at it.
Even though the armature / rotor was declared good by a local electrical repair place, the suspect armature that was rubbing on one of the field coils, you can kind of see the discoloration and rub marks. They're famous for testing good yet not working, so it is still suspect. And we hope when the proper one arrives, that will cure the problem. The bike has a few pieces of brass on it, and it just makes it look really classy. So I've decided that I can probably add a few pieces of brass by doing it myself. So I've been taking steel nuts and bolts and giving them a brass finish by using a torch and heating them up. As soon as it gets hot enough, just brush on with a brass brush, it melts and sticks onto the bolt. So this is the oil plug bolt. It should look pretty cool. Here's the bolt before the brass finish, and here it is after. The new rotor arrived. Will it work? Will it work?
It's the right one this time, right?
Looks right. All the way from Germany. That is the right one.
Oh, nice. Fantastic.
Yep. No, that's good. I'm happy with that. I'm sure you are too. Everybody. Should we cross our fingers and our toes and our legs and everything?
But no hugging.
Oh, I'm okay with that. I'm not a hugger.